Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, I'm back. It's Sunday, March 29th, and it is 9:29 p.m. Eastern Time. So tonight, I want to, first of all, we're going to go over the Q post. That's going to be the first video, and then I've got lots more for you. So I got, well, a little bit of an earlier start tonight, not too early, but I wanted to tell you guys to take advantage of the fact that if you go outside right now, well, depending on what time zone you're in, I'm in the Eastern time zone, and if you go out right now, you can see the moon from Earth. Yeah, it's visible from Earth tonight, the moon. Last time this happened was last night. So I just thought you might want to take advantage of that. Anyway, let's go and jump right into the Q post. I do have some people to thank, but I'm going to thank them in the next video because that will be a regular video. This is kind of an irregular video, I guess. All right, let's get moving, and we're going to just jump right in here. Not really, but you know, metaphorically speaking. All right, this is the first one, and actually I missed this one. It was from March 27th, so I thought, well, what better time to catch up with it than now? So that's what we're going to do, and here it is. It is drop 3904, Patriots in control of the Federal Reserve System. Yeah, that's huge. That is massive. Now, I wish I could tell you that I know all the ins and outs of what that means and the ramifications. All I know is it's a good thing. But I'm studying a little bit more. I've got some books on the Federal Reserve here, and I'm going to try to figure this out a little bit more of what exactly this means and what the ramifications of that are. And I will get back to you because I think we all want to know. Maybe many of you do know. And if you do, and you're well versed in this, then fill me in, because I know somewhat, but not enough to be able to tell other people and be confident of the fact that I'm telling them the truth. All right, so let's look at the link that Q has left. And he says, this is not just another 4-year election. Q. Meaning it's not business as usual. That's what he means by that. It's not just 4 years, you sit and you make promises that you break, and then you don't really do anything, and then the next guy comes along. Nothing like that at all. So let's take a look at this, and we'll see what Q has to tell us. All right. RIP Federal Reserve. This is by Iron Belly. That's a great name. RIP Federal Reserve. This is huge. This scheme essentially merges the Fed and Treasury into one organization. So meet your new Fed chairman, Donald J. Trump. Well, I can't think of anyone I would trust more than Trump to be in there, to tell you the truth. I know not everyone would feel that way, but I do. You know, maybe he's not perfect. I'll give him that. He's just flesh and blood, but well, he's 100,000 times better than the swamp creatures that we've had. All right, so let's take a look at this. And to put it bluntly, the Fed isn't allowed to do any of this. The central bank is only allowed to purchase or lend against securities that have government guarantee. This includes Treasury securities, agency mortgage-backed securities, and the debt issued by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. An argument can be made that can also include municipal securities, but nothing in the laundry list above. So how can they do this? The Fed will finance a special purpose vehicle, SPV, for each acronym to conduct these operations. The Treasury, using the Exchange Stabilization Fund, will make an equity investment into each SPV and be in a first loss position. What does this mean? Well, the heck if I know. Seriously, I'm as much in the dark about this whole stuff than as some of you are. I'm not going to say all of you because I know some of you have to know more about this than I do. In essence, the Treasury, not the Fed, is buying all these securities and backstopping of loans. The Fed is acting as banker and providing financing. The Fed hired BlackRock Inc. to purchase these securities and handle the administration of the SPVs on behalf of the owner of the Treasury. In other words, the federal government is nationalizing large swaths of the financial market. The Fed is providing the money to do it. BlackRock will be doing the trades. This scheme essentially merges the Fed and Treasury into one organization. So meet your new Fed chairman, Donald J. Trump. In 2008, when something similar was done, it was on a smaller scale. Since few understood it, the Bush and Obama administrations ceded total control of those acronym programs to then federal chairman Ben Bernanke. He unwound them at the first available opportunity. But now, 12 years later, we have a much better understanding of how they work. And we have a president who has made it very clear how displeased he is that central bankers haven't used their considerable power to force the Dow Jones Industrial Average at least 10,000 points higher, something he has complained about many times before the pandemic hit. When the Fed was rightly alarmed by the current dysfunction in the fixed income markets, they felt they needed to act. This was the correct thought, but to get the authority to stabilize these private markets, central bankers needed the Treasury to agree to nationalize, own them, so they could provide the funds to do it. In effect, the Fed is giving the Treasury access to its printing press. This means that in the extreme, the administration, and it cuts off there. I don't think there's anything more there. There isn't. So let's come down here, see if there's anything more. No. So I wish I could tell you that I know exactly what that means. Now, I know that the stock market, everybody's saying it. If you've got a little bit of stock or a lot of stock, I think you're aware of the fact that it's being manipulated big time. So I don't know everything that this takes care of. I know that it makes more money available. I know that it puts more money into the pocket of the United States without going to central bankers and so forth. But I don't really understand the whole Federal Reserve thing. And I'm just being completely honest with you. I don't want to lie to you, and I don't want to pretend I know something I don't. But I will find out. That's for sure. All right. So let's go on and let's go back to Q. And we're going to come down here. And this is from Lisa May Crowley. She's a great person to follow on Twitter. And she is Lisa May, MEI 62 on Twitter. And she says here, Fed basically giving Treasury access to its printing press. 10th December 2018 drop predicted Fed plan to kill economy before 2020 election and hinted structure change was coming. POTUS, the cure cannot be worse than the problem. Well, I think we all agree with that. And this from Joe M., or Storm is Upon Us, another great person to follow on Twitter. Patriots have bankrupted the Federal Reserve and absorbed its function into the United States Treasury. The cause of all wars, famine, and economic collapse for the past 100 years has been dissolved, and the people have reclaimed the money system. Congratulations, humanity. Again, I wish I could say I understood all the ramifications and could explain it all. I don't, but I am making it a priority to find out for my own sake, and also in case somebody asks me. So there we go, and we're going on to the next post, which will be the posts from yesterday, all of them in their entirety, and we will be completely up to date when we have finished this with the Q post, unless he posts something tonight, which he could. This is drop 3905, and why is free thought ridiculed, challenged, and threatened? Well, There's lots of reasons for that, psychologically speaking, but let's look at this. A person's value, one, they're a vote, right? Everybody represents a vote. They have monetary value in that they contribute taxes, they earn money, and through earning that money, they're taxed, and so their value is as a monetary value to the government. Why is free thought ridiculed, challenged, and threatened when a person is opposed to the mainstream narrative? 2, remains fixed, degree allowable by economic recession, expansion. 1 remains a variable. 1 is dependent on, like, 1 remains a variable because you don't know how a person's going to vote. That's a choice that they have. Unless they're dead, and then they'll always vote Democrat. I mean, we know that. So anyway, I don't know what it is, but once somebody dies, they always vote Democrat. I'm not sure. I think our time could be better spent, like trying to, when they were trying to convert the Democrats to walk away. Yeah, we should just go into the cemeteries and so forth and speak to these dead people, kind of like maybe a megaphone over top of the grave, and let them know that, tell them, please don't vote Democrat. I don't know how else to reach these dead people. But anyway, yes, the voting remains a variable because they can vote one way or another. 1, it's dependent on a controlled system of information dissemination. That's how voting works. They disseminate the information on the candidates and what they're running for. They disseminate information through the talks and debates. They disseminate information through advertising on TV, Facebook, whatever. So yeah, it is dependent on a controlled system, because whoever's getting the information out generally has more exposure and gets more votes. And it certainly didn't work for the Democrats, but they still have more exposure than the Republicans will ever have, because they're, obviously all the mainstream media is in bed with the Democrats, most of them. So anyway, 1, it depends on a controlled system of information dissemination. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled, owned by 6 corporations? And as we know from Q in the past, that is completely true. All of the media, and that includes newspapers and everything, are owned by 6 corporations. What happens when those same corporations are controlled or operated and controlled by a political ideology? And we know they are. They are Democrat. They make no bones about it. Nothing is fair. For example, think about Joe Biden right now and the fact that, this person that is accusing him of rape, you're not hearing anything in the media about it. But Justice Kavanaugh, wow. And that was the biggest frame up ever. I mean, it was so obvious that he was innocent. And that's all you heard day after day after day. I was so nauseatingly sick of hearing from Ford, two-door Ford. And so anyway, yeah, that's they can do whatever they want. Nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna bash them in the media like they do with Trump. Trump can do nothing right in terms of the media. Nothing. So anyway, what happens when those same corporations are controlled by a political ideology? And they are. What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? It's not the news anymore. It's propaganda. If you can't report the news without a bias, just report the news. Let other people decide what the narrative is. It's like, just report what happened. They don't do that anymore. Ever. It always has a bias. So it's not news. It's propaganda. That's what all of our news is these days. All. What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? Well, it's not the news anymore. What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? It's not. what happens when the news simply becomes an extension arm of a political party. It has. It is the extension of the Democrat Party. That's what it is. It's just a propaganda machine, and it's the same in Canada because Trudeau pays huge amounts to the media to say what he wants, and if they don't, they lose their grants. So what do you think they're going to say? Whatever he wants them to say. Fact becomes fiction? Well, absolutely. We've seen that. And now, by the way, I just want to warn you that the media are using pictures from Italy and other places and trying to say that is America. And I'm not sure if I included it in my news this time or not, but I was really disgusted by that. I really was, because I think the American public wants to know what's happening. Is this real? Isn't it real? They're driving us mental, really, because we're all at home. Many of us, many of you are wanting to go back to your jobs and just pick up life normal. You want to go see a movie, you want to go out to eat, what have you. You want to just go and hang out with some friends. But, we're hearing two sides. They're talking out of two sides of their mouths constantly. So we're constantly in this place of cognitive dissonance. It's like, you've got evidence. Yes, it's real. It's real. And I know that it is real because, I have friends in the medical field whose hospitals are not in good shape. So I know it's real. But then you've got people going through and videotaping hospitals and saying, what? They're empty. What's true? I don't know. Is it bad only in some places and not in others? Don't know. But anyway, they're driving us completely mental because fact is fiction now. Fiction's fact. You don't know which is which. And it keeps you constantly off your guard, off your footing. It's crazy. When does news become propaganda? Oh, it passed that long time ago. I mean, when? Back in the 60s? Or was it the 50s, late 50s? I know it was 60s, definitely. They started Project Mockingbird. So anyway, all right. Okay, when does the news become propaganda? Identity creation? How does the average person who is under, I've said this many times, how does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact versus fiction? Well, thankfully, there are some alternative news sources that you can, that will, dig into this stuff a bit, but still, how do you know who to trust of them? Because there's some of them that I certainly wouldn't trust, and others that I do definitely trust. So anyway, how does the average person, you're just so busy with your normal life and the stress and everything else that most people with kids and family and things to do and groceries and laundry and this and that, bake sales, whatever, they don't have time to look into this stuff. Majority of people more prone to believe somebody in power sitting behind a big brand news name. Yes, that's absolutely true. Do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated and or shunned? Yes, I've got one of my undergraduate degrees is in psychology, and that is something that I remember looking at and thinking, wow, that it was just fascinating to me that, yeah, most people will go along with what the majority are thinking, even if somewhere inside they know it's wrong, but they fear being shunned, socially isolated, whatever. So they just go along with it. Don't want to rock the boat. Well, if they're all right, then if all of these people think this, well, then it must be true. So it must be me that's wrong. I think that's human nature, really. Mainstream is used for a reason. Dominate trend in opinion. Absolutely. If majority of people believe X, then X must be validated. True. And why do mainstream media heads with different organizations always use the same keywords? And you, the same as I, have watched those videos where they're playing people from all these different news organizations. They're saying the exact same sentences. It's scary. Coordinated? Absolutely. By who? We know. Outside entity providing instructions? Absolutely. Three-letter agency, starts with a C. Do they count on the fact that people, human psyche, are more prone to believe something if heard over and over again by different trusted sources? Of course. Of course people are. Especially if you don't have time to check it out yourself. Because you'll think, well, I don't know if I believe that. But then you hear it again, and you hear it again, and you hear it again. Oh, well, it must be true then. Human nature. Do echo chamber tactics provide validation, credibility to the topic point being discussed? Absolutely. The more it's repeated over and over again, the more it seems believable. Threat to intellectual freedom? Oh, yeah, big time. And let me tell you, people that are free thinkers are not valued in this society anymore. And it's very sad because it was free thinkers that have brought us to the place where we are as a civilization globally. It's been the free thinkers that come up with electricity, this, that, all these inventions. But now you are almost punished for thinking outside the box and not thinking like everyone else. All right. And would control over these institutions, organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what they're doing. And Hugh says, read again and digest. Would control over these institutions, organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Absolutely. That's irrefutable. Logical thinking. Why, after the election of 2016, did Democrats and media corps jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding illegitimacy of election, character assassination of POTUS through sexism, racism, and every other ism, post 2016 election? Absolutely. And, you know, if you go back a few years, the same people that are knocking him, oh, they thought he was so wonderful. They thought he was so wonderful a few years ago. But now that he's president, no. And, you know, I mean, we heard that over and over again. Oh, he's an illegitimate president. How is he an illegitimate president? He's not. Anyway, why were violent mass terror organizations such as Antifa immediately created, funded? Well, because well, for many reasons, because they were trying to put forth the narrative that Trump was a white nationalist, he was racist, and this is what happens in America when you have Trump. That's what they were doing, and still are. Now, this is not a new post, by the way. Q has posted this before, but I think it's really important that he brings us back around to it right now, because I think we're in a very, very critical stage. No question about that. So, why were these organizations tasked with immediate intimidation and shutdown of any pro-POTUS rallies and or events? Well, you don't want people going to anything that's that's pro-POTUS when all of the media is saying the opposite, do you? You don't want people to go and hear the truth. My gosh, no. Let's intimidate them by putting Antifa there and roughing them up. All right, and why were marches immediately organized to counter and silence pro-POTUS rallies and or events? Same reason. Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, all the isms? When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. Control of the narrative equals power. When you are blind, what do you see? Not much of anything. possibly shadows. When you are blind, what do you see? They want you divided. Divided by religion, divided by sex, divided by political affiliation, divided by class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible, the controllers. That is so true. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable. The livestock are kept like sheep, and that's what they want to do. They want to control the narrative because it gives them power. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable group, the stable being groupthink, the collective, the hive mind. I don't know. Hopefully you've never been in a cult like I unfortunately was. I've written a book about it. Actually, it's in the description, always in the video descriptions. Not that I'm trying to sell books because I make almost next to nothing on them, but anyway, when you're in a cult, they literally beat you into submission. Not literally, but they will shun you. They will, if you don't conform to the group, you have to conform to the group. You have to think like the group. And everybody ends up having these little isms, these little, almost like Christianese. This was like a Christian cult that wasn't at all Christian. And they come up with their own lingo and everything. So yeah, it's when you stand outside of the collective and have free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. That's true. This represents a clear and present danger to the constitutional republic of the United States of America. And it's absolutely terrifying because I was always a free thinker, and I don't know how I fell for the cult that I did, but I did. And when I started to have my own thoughts again, it was terrifying because I thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. I shouldn't even be thinking this stuff. I felt so guilty. And I think a lot of people that are just starting to wake up, they go through those feelings of something must be wrong. I shouldn't think this way. No, I shouldn't. No, because all of these people are right. They have to be right, because if they weren't right, then that would make me right. And what are the odds of that? Just little old me against all these people. No, it must be me that's wrong. That's what a lot of people go through. All right, now let's come down here, and I think this is from Die Oppressor Lieber, and he said, Q dropped the post on November 25th and December 18th. 6 corporations control the media. Fake news is the extension of the Democratic Party. The public are focused on their kids and paying off their mortgages and credit cards. 277 million Americans read or watch or hear fake news spread by these 6 corporations. It's an illusion of choice. Absolutely. In 1983, 90%, I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. I'm not tired, but 90% of the American media was owned by 50 corporations. By 2011, 90% of the media was owned by 6 corporations. Mass control of population is the ultimate goal. Here's an example QAnon gave us of how the CIA passes around 4 a.m. memo with keyword talking points to be disseminated by the puppets. These 6 corporations make sure the puppets repeat the same lines and same narrative, like the phrase handpicked below. Now, let's take a look at this. Let me make this bigger just because I can. And I'm always thinking of you tiny phone people. Yes, I love me my tiny phone people. I do. Q, okay, we already read that. So look at this. This is different news actually, these are all politicians. Barr was hand-picked because he said the president couldn't be charged with obstruction. And guess what? He decided no obstruction. Shocker. And Elizabeth Warren, Congress voted 420 to 0 to release the full Mueller report, not a summary from hand-picked Attorney General A.G. Barr. And American people deserve the opportunity to read the full Mueller report, not a sanitized summary from Donald Trump's hand-picked AG. The Mueller report needs to be made public. That is what transparency looks like. A short letter from Trump's hand-picked Attorney General is not sufficient. Yeah, they all get their talking points. And Mark Warner, Congress and American people need to see the special counsel's full report, not a shorthand summary from the president's hand-picked Attorney General. Robert Mueller concluded that he could not exonerate Donald Trump, and Americans deserve to know why. The decision not to prosecute was made by his hand-picked Attorney General based on a false legal premise. And Joy Reid, good questions. Shouldn't we hear Mueller's conclusions directly from him and not the interpretation from Trump's hand-picked AG? Yeah. You think they all just picked that word willy-nilly? All right. And Antifa was used by design to attempt to depress the excitement among patriots about real Donald Trump and to diminish turnout to the POTUS rallies. We know George Soros funded Antifa. The focus of QAnon has been to reach patriots to unite around core principles of patriotism, truth, freedom, and free thought. Free thought is imperative. Free thought is built on logic and reason, but it does not exist in a vacuum. We are truly on the outside looking in at the sheep, but our goal is to wake the sheep up and pull them out of the daze they are in. An unprecedented psychological war has been waged against the world, courtesy of the deep state, CIA, all aimed at destroying real Donald Trump. Patriots are a threat to the one world system. The only thing standing between the cabal's domination of the world are patriots. We are adherents to free thought for the most part. We believe in America first, American anons and patriots. We believe in the preeminence of the U.S. Constitution for the governing of our land, American anons and patriots. We think outside the box. Unity in diversity. Absolutely. And that is by Dio Presso Liber or SunQ2 on Twitter. Great person to follow. And let's go on now. We are at drop 3906. 3906. When you are awake, you are able to clearly see. All right. Decide for yourself to be free from outside opinion. Decide for yourself to be objective in your conclusions. Decide for yourself to be true in your own beliefs. Decide for yourself to be open to following the facts. Decide for yourself to be strong in defending your beliefs. Decide for yourself to be resistant to blindly accepting factless statements. Those who attack you, those who mock you, those who call you, those who control you, do they represent you or do they represent themselves in some form? Mental enslavement, the Great Awakening, freedom of thought was designed and created not only as a back channel to the public, away from the long-standing mind control of the corrupt and heavily biased media, to endure future events through transparency and regeneration of individual thought, breaking the chains of groupthink, but more importantly aid in the construction of a vehicle, a ship, that provides the scattered free thinkers with a starter new social networking platform that allows for freedom of thought, expression, and patriotism or national pride, the feeling of love, devotion, and a sense of attachment to the homeland and alliance with other citizens who share the same sentiment. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or the stable. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink, collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a psychological viewpoint, and he's repeating this part. Free Free thought is a philosophical, free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, tradition, revelation, or dogma. When you are awake, you are able to clearly see. The choice is yours and yours alone. Trust and put faith in yourself. You are not alone, and you are not in the minority. Difficult truths will soon see the light of day. Boy, will they ever. It's happening. I do believe that there are arrests going down. Everything seems to indicate that, as far as I'm concerned. Where we go one, we go all Q. Now, Q defines free thought as a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism rather than authority, revelation, tradition, or dogma. We are not in the minority. More are awake than you think. And this by Lisa May Crowley. Great Awakening was designed, created as a back channel to the public to bypass the media and aid in construction of a starter new social networking platform which allows for freedom of thought, expression, and patriotism or national pride. POTUS told us they were doing this. All right, and let's go to the next. This is drop 3907. 3907. This is about saving America. The entire world is watching. Patriots from around the world are praying for America. We are all bound by a feeling deep inside, a feeling that cannot be publicly expressed for fear of ridicule, a feeling that challenges the mainstream narrative against that which we are told to accept and dare not question, but simply that people are being abused by those in power and time is running out. Remember the battles of Lexington and Concord? Give me liberty or give me death. For far too long we have been silent and allowed our bands of strength that we once formed to defend freedom and liberty to deteriorate. We became divided. We became weak. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us. Those who claimed to represent us gave us false hope, made false promises. The evil and corruption only grew. This is more than party politics. This is about restoring old glory. This is about saving our land and our people from those who wish to harm us. This is about preserving our republic. This is about preserving our safety. This is about restoring our strength. This is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is about protecting our children. This is about saving America. We are all God's children. We are fathers, we are mothers, we are daughters, we are sons, we are brothers, we are sisters. We do not look at race, we do not look at skin color. We are united in these states of America. We are and will always be patriots. We must rise again. We must unite again. We must fight again for God and country. God bless America. Where we go one, we go all, Q. I think that's very self-explanatory. Now, this is a repost of drop 2446 from the 6th of November, 2018, the day of the 2018 midterm elections when voter fraud enabled Dems to win the House, but 53 to 47 in the Senate was the target. We must win the House back in November. We elected traitors to govern us. We allowed evil to prey on us. So true. Now, where did that come from? I'm not sure where this came from, but I am going to take this out of there because it shouldn't be in there. I will look at that a bit later because it's probably related to the news. That's what I think. I'll put it over here. There we go, because that's coming up next. All right. So, and the last of the drops, and bringing us completely up to date with Q, is this 3908 USA Freedom Flag. Now, Q has posted this many times in the past, and he's posted it again. I love the American flag. I remember when I first moved to the States from Canada, and I've always loved the States. I had traveled extensively throughout the States before I moved there and immigrated there. And so I remember coming into Rock Hill, no, was it not Rock Hill? Fort Mill, South Carolina, I believe it was. A massive, massive flag. There's a massive U.S. flag at a dealership. And I remember being so in awe of it. I got out of my car and I just looked at it. It was huge and flying in the wind, and it was a beautiful day. One of those cloudless days where the sky was just bright blue. There was no, trails through the sky. And I just was so in awe of it. And I've always loved the American flag. Yes, I was born in Canada. Yes, I am Canadian by birth, but I love America. And it was my choice to live there. I was born here, but it's always been my choice. I love America, and I know you do too, or you wouldn't be listening to this. So that is it for this video. I will be back in another video shortly. So I'll get this set up and uploaded, and I will be back. I hope you guys stay safe, stay well, and I will be back to see you shortly. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.